you really need somebody that's just relentless. It's a grind in New York. I've watched a lot of agents come in, have some success right out the gate, and then just crash and burn.
Hello and welcome to the Dream is Real podcast. This is the place if you're looking to buy, sell, or invest in New York real estate. Before we get started, make sure that you like, share, subscribe, and turn on the notifications. I want to make sure that we bring you great content and that you don't miss an episode. Today, I am with Jeremiah Dalton of Suffolk County Home Buyers. Jeremiah, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me on.
Awesome. So you are very much on the investing side. Want to learn more about how you got started. So tell us a little bit about you, about Suffolk County Home Buyers.
Sure. So, my company, which is, you mentioned it's Suffolk County House Buyers.
House Buyers.
It's okay. It happens all the time. So, I started it as almost a side business. So this was now going back almost 10 years ago. So I was working a job, actually graduated law school. I was working for a labor union that I hated the job, but I was actually making, pretty good money. And I said, you know what? I want to make more money at least. I don't know if I'm going to stay here long term, but at the time I just had my first child. And so I was like, let me see if I can use this as an opportunity to make additional money. I grew up in construction around my dad. And so I knew, kind of how to renovate a house, but I didn't really know all the mechanics of, how to buy an investment property or things of that nature. But I wound up at the time where, REO homes were a little bit more plentiful than they are today. I wound up winning the bid on an REO home in Middle Island. And I bought the house. I took a line of credit against my house and I used that money to buy, renovate, and resell the home. And I made a profit, right? And at that point, a switch kind of unlocked. And I had done some other investing leading up to that, bought a few rental properties outside of New York. But I realized at that point, wow, I just made a good amount of money on this. Sure. You know what I mean? Maybe at the time, I think it was $28,000, And I was like, wow, what if I just keep doing this, So I started looking for more and more properties to do. And this was around the time that the bank-owned properties were just kind of drying up. And so I started to network with investors outside of Long Island, just figuring out what they were doing. And that's when I discovered direct-to-seller marketing, right? And I remember an investor who I still talk to this day, big operation in Massachusetts, saying, hey, you're not in the real estate business, you're in the marketing business. And I was kind of a switch went off there too. And I started marketing direct to sellers. First was direct mail, then we were doing website. And I was all doing this while I had my full-time job. But it got to the point that I was making almost double what I was making at my salary job.
So for the audience, dive a little bit deeper into the direct to seller.
Sure.
What does that mean?
So direct to seller, I tell this story a lot. Direct to seller marketing is when you're reaching out to a homeowner or another, it could be an investor, a landlord, and saying, hey, you don't want to put your house on the market, sell it to me directly, no commissions, and, we'll close really fast. I mean, sometimes they don't want a fast closing, right? They just want an easy, simple closing. And I remember at the time when I was getting beat out, I had bought a couple of bank-owned properties. I was starting to get my legs under me, but I was getting outbid on all these bank-owned properties. So again, starting the direct-to-seller marketing, I said, okay, well, I'll try this. And I had a mentor at the time that was kind of teaching me and coaching me. He lived in Colorado. And he was also buying houses on the MLS, bank-owned, et cetera. And he started doing direct-to-seller. He's like, listen, I have this guy that does direct mail for other investors. He says it's worked really well for him. He had a big blog, this mentor of mine. He's like, so if I'm gonna try it, he's gonna give me a great deal on it. I'm gonna try it, and if the results are good, I'll post it on my blog and it'll help his business, but maybe give him a shot. And so I did, and I wound up getting 2 deals from it. And those 2 deals that I got were more than I was making on any other deal.
Sure.
That's when I realized, this is the path. This is how you do it. Because I realized once I bought properties at a price that made sense for me, I could hire better contractors. If I hire better contractors, I have less headache, less management. I could sell it at a price that's going to make it attractive because I'm not trying to get the top, right? Like I'm putting it out at a competitive number, and I just rinse and repeat. And the first time that I thought about doing this direct to seller marketing, I told my wife. I had just sold another flip. I didn't make a lot from it, maybe $10,000. And I said, hey, I'm going to take this $10,000, I'm going to put it into that direct to seller marketing campaign with direct mail. And she's like, but who are you marketing to? I said, I'm going to market to homeowners. Homeowners? She's like, for what reason? I said, because they'll see if they want to sell my houses at a discount. And she's like, sell their house to you at a discount? That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. Who would ever sell their house at a discount? I said, I don't know. But there's people all over the country that are doing it. And here we are. I mean, I've probably done over 400 houses on Long Island at this point.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And 98% of that has come from direct to seller marketing. And what I have understood is that there is a small contingent of people out there that do realize, again, you're not trying to fool anybody, right? I think that's the misconception, is that like you're there trying to steal grandma's house from under her nose. You're not. Like, yes, they have to be aware of the fact that like they are selling at a discount. It's like when you go to trade in your car, you know that the dealer's going to take that car and resell it.
Right.
Why are you doing that though? Because it's just easy and it's simpler.
Yeah, versus putting it on Craigslist, putting it in papers,
yes.
putting it all over the place.
And at the end of the day, we're professional buyers. We're also professional sellers. So all the headaches that a seller doesn't want to go through,
sure,
we're going to handle that.
So do you see a particular demographic, and I don't need to know age or whatever.
No.
But I guess circumstance or the types of responses, because from what I have a marketing background as well, and direct mail can be effective,
sure,
but it's a historically low percentage of
yes,
response. Who would you say bites on the advertisement when it comes through? Is there a pattern there? Or?
You know, I to this day have not really nailed a particular pattern, because we don't just do direct mail. We do web generation, right? We do television, okay? We have an online presence. So when it's all said and done, there's a number of different ways that people are going to find you. We try to do more inbound, so we don't do a lot of cold calling or texting, because I just feel that, yes, you'll get a lot of leads, but it's a lot of work, and chances are at the end of the day, it's way too much work for very little reward.
Sure.
And fortunately enough, after doing this, we've developed the budget, right, to be able to spend bigger on marketing and get higher quality inbound leads. I would say that as far as a demographic is concerned, the one common denominator is they're just fed up. That's the thing. But it's not an age. I've bought from people that are extremely business savvy, extremely well off, not desperate. It's just not worth their time.
Got it.
You know what I mean? And then you have the other people that are tired and they're burnt out and they need a solution, right?
I was wondering, as you're talking, these individuals that maybe have multiple properties, that it's like, hey, I've got my primary residence.
Yeah.
I've got this portfolio that I kind of want to move on, want to get a little bit more.
There is that. I mean, I have a house. It was that I just put under contract. It was a waterfront house in Riverhead on a bluff overlooking the water. Okay. The guy had that house plus another house, beautiful house out further out east with like an indoor swimming pool. We looked at both houses, right? What was the common denominator there? It was just he was at a point in his life where he was just sort of ready to move on. This was not somebody that he was aware of exactly what we were doing, that we were going to have to buy it. We have to buy it at a price that made sense, and we're going to make money on it. What I tell people, I think the options that we offer as professional home buyers here in New York it's very valuable. And the reason is because this is the hardest state in the country to transact real estate. It's the hardest by far.
Hands down.
Like it's a grind. It's an absolute grind. In other states, like they close in like 2 weeks. Out in California, we'll close escrow in 5 days. That's a real thing.
Sure.
That's a real thing. That doesn't happen here. That's a joke if that were to happen. Like best case scenario, if the stars align and the attorneys get everything going, 2 weeks. And that's like everything
and
has
that's everything.
Everything.
You're right. When you say stars need to align for that,
it's really like I always tell people when I tell sellers, like we can get it done in 2 weeks if the stars align, but realistically 30 days, right? But a lot of my transactions, even when everything is perfect, when I go to sell it on the back end, like I have to account for at least 60.
Sure.
And I have to account for a million different headaches and buyers lying and attorneys not getting back to you and loan officers ghosting, my agent, right? We have all these scenarios that go on, but we're willing to take that burden on, right? Because we've alleviated the original seller from having to experience that. So you're just providing them relief. They understand that they're leaving money on the table. But our job is to make sure that we're giving them a very smooth, easy transaction. And we're direct buyers, right? So a lot of people that will wholesale real estate, there's not necessarily anything wrong with that. The concept that I don't like about wholesaling real estate is that people are coming to you because they're expecting you to solve the problem.
You come in with the buying power, right?
Yes.
Right
if
there.
now all of a sudden, because my argument to wholesaling is, well, if you're going to sell it to this guy who's now going to put it out to his list, why not just list it? Because it's the same thing. Because if you list it, you're going to get investors at that point. You don't know who you're getting. We always say, if you want to come to us, go online, see what we do, see our reviews, right? See all the people that we've helped. You know that like when we say we're going to do something, it's us that you're dealing with.
Right.
It's like you go to a restaurant, you go to Yelp, right? You want to see that this restaurant has good reviews, right? You're not just going into a restaurant blindly. You're doing your research. If you sell it to someone who then goes to wholesale it, that goes out the window.
Right. So
because you don't know who that end buyer is.
When you shake their hand, it's not speculation. It's we're going to buy this house.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So journey, fascinating, right? You go from, hey, let me try, selling a home here to now selling how many homes?
Over 400.
Over 400 homes. So getting into it, what did you expect in your first experience? Because I want to speak to the audience that is saying, hey, I kind of want to get into real estate investing. I know it's not for the faint of heart.
No.
It's not, and it's not like, I mean, to be honest, you're making it sound easy, but we know it's not easy, right? I always
joke, these bags under my eyes, I earn them.
Right. That's why I wear glasses. I cover those. Yeah. But so going into it, what was your expectation? And you said that was an aha moment. Like
my expectation, I think, was, I just wanted to be able to leave the job that I was at. So your expectations kind of change, right? So at the time, it was like, I just want to leave the job I'm at. You know what I mean? And all right.
Was it kind of like a dip your toe in the water to see, like, could this be it?
It was a dip my toe in the water. Can I make extra money? Then it was like, okay, I'm making extra money. Can I leave my job? Now it's okay, can I leave my job? Can I keep this going?
Right.
Now it's like, oh, I've kept this going. Can I grow it? Oh, I've grown it. Can I grow it again? Right. So I'm at a point now where I've sort of looked at this and in this time, right? Like when I left the business, my daughter was 3.5. My other son was just about to turn 2, and my wife was pregnant with my third.
Okay.
Now that one that she's pregnant with he'll be 7. So now the expectations are different, right? Like they're all heavily involved in their sports. Sure. I have 3 kids in very competitive travel sports. So it's now keeping it. Now it's more about like, yes, we want to make more money, but how do I make this business as efficient as I possibly can be?
Right.
Because your priorities change.
So that you can be present.
Yeah. I mean, I have a son that plays ice hockey. He practices 9 times a week. 9 times during the week. That's not counting the games. It's just I'm at every single practice.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So how do I run that business and bring in the right people so that I can do that? Doesn't mean that I don't have fires to put out. Doesn't mean that I have to. There's times that I practice. I have to step away and pick up the phone and handle stuff. But how do I develop a team that kind of handles the majority of that? That's the more important thing.
Right. So you've hit on a couple of points of getting to the precipice of change and then making the decision to jump. So initially moving from your career to this, was that a little bit nerve-wracking?
Yeah, it was. But ignorance is a good thing, right? So if I knew everything that I knew about real estate now, right, and everything that I've been through, right?
Like if somebody gave you a list of these are all the things that you're going to encounter, you may not have.
I may get in trouble for saying this, but like real estate to me, it's like dating like a very, very pretty, very, very fun girl, right? But also every once in a while can get very crazy.
Sure.
And all of a sudden you have a lot of fun, a great experience, but all of a sudden on a dime, she snaps and she gets nuts. and you don't know what to do with it. And then it stops. And then it kind of like, and then you're back to normal. So there's a lot of fun in real estate, but there's times, and going through it even now where like all of a sudden just a million things bad happen at once. And things that I never even expected could go bad. Had I known all those things that could have happened, because I had done a good amount up to that point, but paled in comparison to what I've done now. Had I known all those things, I probably wouldn't have left, because you don't, so ignorance isn't always a bad thing
So
too.
anybody who's out there saying, I need to know everything that's going to happen, that could actually be the Achilles heel.
Yeah, because then ultimately,
to your
once you realize you like certain things, you're just going to have to deal with on the fly.
Right.
If you realize all the bad things that could possibly happen to you, you may never make the jump that you need to. So, yes, you want to try to limit the bad things as much as you can, but at some point or another, like, you're going to have to take the leap. Was I nervous going into it? Yes, but I had developed a good amount of momentum at that point. I was also so fed up with where I was that I was sort of like, there's no going back. Like, this was hell where I was. I need to leave.
Get to the point,
That kind of drowned out a lot of the fear.
Got it. So, and you surround yourself with individuals that are very successful in business. You actually have a podcast as well, Long Island Legends.
Yes.
Correct? I got that one right. So there you go. So you are surrounding yourself with individuals that display success principles, right? What are some of the common denominators that you see with the individuals that you speak to on a regular basis?
I think to be successful in business, you need a few things. One, you need to have a big vision. Okay. You need to be able to think bigger than everybody else. Okay. You need to have a short memory, because you're going to have a lot of bad things that happen to you.
Right.
Okay. And you need to be consistent. I think if you can do those three things, you're going to be fine.
Big vision, short memory, consistent.
Yeah. Because that's the problem. Everybody expects you to do these extraordinary things, but the most extraordinary thing that you could do is do the ordinary things that you need to do every single day. Right. Just do that. It's just taking action. And I've learned this, whether it's in business, whether it's in my physical health, parenting, people, they try something for a little bit and then they just stop. Right. And you don't realize, like, it's just built up over time. So my ability to just stay consistent, have a short memory, have a big vision, execute day in and day out, like, that's the secret. There's no magic recipe here. It's just that.
Yeah, and a lot of people want to make it more complex, right? What's the secret sauce? The secret sauce is just get out there and do it.
Yes. And I think people also have to understand, Les, you have to develop financial literacy. You have to understand how a business works, profit and loss, and all that stuff. I think, obviously, I've always done a good job of trying to keep my expenses as low as I possibly can. I could have, I've seen real estate operators in my space have these giant, enormous offices, right? All these employees, bloated payrolls. And, it's like, you made $7 million last year, but you had, $6.8 million in expenses. You know what I mean? Like, I know it's great to tell everybody you did $7 million in top revenue last year, but tell me what you netted, right? So I think you have to pay, attention to that. But above all, you have to make sure that, you're putting out a quality product, whatever it is that you're doing, you're staying true. And you have to have some ethics, right? Like, you have to, if you say, like, this is what I'm going to do, then that's what you do. And I think you have to be upfront. And if you can't do that, you have to say, well, then I can't do that, So
the last two that you mentioned, those are intangible, right? That's something that you've got to come to the table with. The other skills and the other knowledge, that's something that you can get through mentorship, through your own personal study. What was your journey like for that, preparing you to be the business owner that you are today?
From the standpoint of
understanding how a business is run. That's more go out and get that knowledge. No, to my knowledge, you correct me if I'm wrong, but it's not like you're born with the concept of how to run a business.
So I think as a real estate investor, you start off as an investor, right? I'm going to almost like a sole proprietorship, a one-man show. I'm part of a mastermind, right, called Collective Genius, that has, the largest real estate, fix and flip wholesalers, in the country, right? And their goal is, they said it's just help you go from a real estate investor to running a real estate business, right? So I've surrounded myself with people, and I've gotten advice from people, and I've brought in the right people, lawyers, accountants, whatever it might be, to make sure that, this is treated and run like a real business. You know what I mean? I had a long conversation with my tax planning strategist yesterday, right? To talk about, hey, this is where we are in income, right? What can we do? What kind of investments can we make to offset our tax liability going into, the 2026 year? Like, that's not conversations that I had,
Sure.
while back, right? But that's just a consequence of growing and meeting the right people. And hey, I see you're doing X, Y, and Z. Who do you use? Oh, I use so and so. Okay, great, right? So that mastermind's offered me the opportunity to network and find the right people that help them.
Right. And I think that lends to the concept of, put your head down, get to work, but don't isolate.
Don't isolate. You're not on an island. Don't buy your own shit, right? Like
Right.
you have to be open-minded enough to know that you're always learning. There's something to be gained from everybody. Now, listen, I am very guarded about my time, right? So, if I feel like something's worthwhile, I'll do it. Some people, they spend all this time like networking and doing X, Y, and Z. Like, you have to work on your business above all, right? So you need to be very selective and strategic about who you surround yourself with. But when those opportunities arise, you go there, you're all in, and you try to soak up as much knowledge as you can,
You mentioned working on your business versus working in your business. How do you balance that time? Have you found things that work for you?
It's hiring the right people. I mean, hiring A players, you know what I mean? Because an A player will do the job of 3 C players
Right.
and cost you less than those 3 C players combined. Their A players are actually save you money, and they make your business easier, right? Because you have to just deal with one person's versus 3. When I started, I was just kind of adding people on, and then I came to find out, okay, you're great, you're not so great, right? You're going to take this over, and all of a sudden, it was like, wow, my life got less stressful, right? With less people,
Sure.
with less overhead. You know what I mean?
All 3 things that we should all strive for. Did you find it hard to delegate early on?
No, I would have to say if there was one thing that I've always been naturally good at is delegating, understanding like, hey, what is it that I know, right? Okay, I know a few things. I know that I want to be hands-on in the marketing department because that's the lifeline of our business. I raise the money. All of our deals, we probably have over $20 million in private funding. We don't use any hard money. It's all private individuals. So, I deal with the investors, right? And then, I set the stage every day for what the team needs to do that day. A lot of times people get too caught up with, thinking 2-3 months down the line, what do you got to do today? Focus on today, and I set the agenda for what the team has to do every single day. And then their job at the end of the day is to report back on what they did. And based on what they did, we adjust for the following day. And it's just that kind of consistency day in and day out.
So based upon your experience with Suffolk County house buyers, maybe you talk to, I think this same kind of closing conversation can go to the investor, the seller, and even the real estate professional. What would you say is the bullseye to look for in an individual or a team to work with to complete a transaction, particularly here in New York?
You really need somebody that's just relentless. It's a grind in New York. I've watched a lot of agents come in, have some success right out the gate, and then just crash and burn. I've seen it with investors. Again, going back to, every day is a new day, right? You got to get up the next day, and whatever you did in your life prior up until that day doesn't mean anything. Now you have to focus on today. So you have to be relentless. There's a lot of bad players out there. I mean, that's not just for New York, that's any market, right? But I have an agent that I work with on a lot of our transactions. Every day there's a problem, and it's not to do with us, right? Like, this doesn't mean that there aren't issues that pop up and that we have to address that were honest mistakes, but it's like something pops up and he's like, the agent said this. And, I always say, like, on this episode of what the fuck is wrong with people,
Right.
like every single day. This is not that hard. You just have to be consistent. You have to do what you say. You have to answer your phone. I mean, a lot of them just don't answer their phone. And I'm not a big, pick up the phone kind of guy because I just have a million things, but you could always text me. And if you need to call, I'll make the time, but people just don't answer.
Right. In this conversation, you've talked about being someone who runs their business in a sense where you can be present, but at the same time, you're talking about being relentless, diligent, being present when needed.
Yeah. Because there's a time that there's something that comes up that only I can address. I got to deal with it. I mean, it's what it is, right? There's too much money that's on the line. You know what I mean? There's too many people that have a hand in this. Like, it's got to get done. You know what I mean? And it probably usually only takes me 2 minutes to just be like, okay, boom, 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 and I'm done. That comes from experience, obviously. Like, at this point, I've gotten very good at seeing, like, okay, what's the one thing we got to do to solve this? Okay, we need that. Okay, I have my right-hand person. I tell her, go out and do that. You know what I mean? So that comes with time. But again, that's a product of being consistent day after day. So I have the reps now.
And in your experience with Long Island Legends, you find this to be consistent across the board?
I think it's those people that have that ability to just to believe in themselves, have the vision, be consistent, short memory. Like, this isn't for the faint of heart. Most businesses fail.
Yeah, you hit a really good point with the short memory. I don't know if I've heard it put that way, but it makes sense, right? Because business can be traumatic if you let it, and you just gotta pick up today, and you've gotta hit.
Yeah, people tell me like, oh, right, like, you know, I want to fix and flip homes. That's okay. Like, but let me ask you something. If you're sitting at the table and somebody comes by with a hammer and smashes your hand and you don't see it coming, how do you feel about that? Because that's exactly what happens. Like, you know what I mean? Like, every the day could be going great, this, and all of a sudden, bang, this happens. Like, you got to be kidding. I mean, I had a $2 million house that I just put back up for sale in East Hampton, built it from the ground up. The buyers, I had it under contract. We were hopefully going to close by the end of December. Out of nowhere, they said, house isn't for us. We're backing out. Now, they gave up a large portion of their deposit to do that, right? But imagine that for me, right? You know, just came out of nowhere. Like, those are the things that just happen on a regular basis. And it's like, you have to remind yourself, like, this is where people quit. This is where they give up. So if you're willing to grind through it and push through it, then, you know, you'll be on the other side, but you're going to have to weather the storm. That's just part of it.
So it's not for the faint of heart, but is it worth it? Is the dream real in real estate to be able to make a good life for yourself and build a legacy?
So here's what I say. Is it worth it for, like, the material things? Like, yes, you know, built a beautiful home. My kids, they don't have great things. Is it for the material stuff? No, probably not worth it, right? It's worth it for who you become in the process. The person that you become is what makes it all worth it. It's not, you know, don't do it for the material things, because I could tell you, you know, you do something great, it's fleeting. Yes, the time with your family, extremely important. That's worth it. Who you become, it's worth it. If you're doing it because you want to flex on social media and show some watch or some car or some house or some pool, I can promise you it's not worth it. It's not worth the angst. So just realize why you're doing it in the first place. But when you look back and say, wow, like, look at the person that I was versus the person I am now, you know what I mean? I'm actually somebody that, you know, can be proud of himself. That's what makes it worth it.
Awesome.
Not the material stuff.
Where can the audience find you on Long Island Legends?
So we have Long Island Legends Pod. They can find me there. They can reach out directly. I'm on Facebook, Jeremiah Dalton, Instagram, Jeremiah Dalton _ my company is Suffolk County House Buyers. I also have a funding company for real estate agents that if they need an advance on their commission, Red Brick Funding. They can reach out to me about that. We have the smoothest, easiest, most straightforward underwriting process. So if an agent is waiting to get their commission and the deal hasn't closed, because we all know in New York how long that could take, come to us at Red Brick Funding. We'll give you a commission advance, make it very easy for you. So those are all the different ways they could reach out to us.
Very cool. What's the best way to connect with you in terms of email?
Jeremiah at SuffolkCountyHouseBuyers.com is probably the best. Email, social media messages. Sometimes I might miss, or if they find me on Facebook and they want to message me, that might be a little easier. But typically, emails are the best.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me on.
And thank you for joining us as well. This is the Dream is Real podcast. Remember, like, share, subscribe, turn on your notifications. If you want to follow us, go to Instagram and TikTok at Dream Select Realty, or on X at Dream Select Home. If you want to be part of the program, you can go to home team at dreamselectrealty.com, and we will see you next time. Just remember, the dream is real.